Garland got inside Smart, faked the pass to Allen, and he puts it up and in. Garland up ahead with Okoro, goes there. Oh, Okoro throws it down with bad intentions. Destin works on Irving, trying to get loose. He'll fire. Hey! Knocks it down.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, general ages, you are listening live here to episode number 14 of the All Things Cavalier Podcast, whether in audio or now in video form. I am your host, Brandon Lewis, alongside my esteemed co-host, Joey Schneider.
What's going on, Brandon? We have a lot to talk about today. All good stuff. All good stuff. A very special episode number 14, being recorded during a massive snowstorm here in Northeast Ohio. So we had the time, and usually we like to record on Tuesdays or Wednesdays, the special Monday edition. So it's going to be very interesting. A lot to talk about. Let's get it started.
Joey, there's no better place to kick off than talk about the West Coast trip, because these Cleveland Cavaliers, they went 5-1 on the West Coast trip, and Darius Garland becoming a superstar right before our very eyes. This team is winning games when they are down and out, and really, let's be real, it should not have been close against Oklahoma City. It should not have been close against San Antonio, but nonetheless, this team, the Cleveland Cavaliers, as we sit today on this Monday recording, Joey, they are 2.5 games out of first place in the Eastern Conference. Who would have thought on January 17, 2022, we'd be talking about that?
The Cavs, they have a game coming up in 50 minutes here, starting at 3 o'clock, a really weird time. They're playing against a Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving-less Nets. If they win this game, there's a chance that, if they win this game and other pieces fall, we are only going to be a game and a half out of the first place seed in the playoffs. That is absolutely insane to think about. But to get back to one of your points, one of the biggest points, in my opinion, Darius freaking Garland turning into the superstar that we talked about from the very first podcast. Is he going to take that step? 21 years old, averaging 20 points and 10 assists in the month of January, putting the team on his back in games that they needed to win. And like you said, certain games shouldn't have been as close as they were. Down 18 points to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Darius Garland thundered back. And I'm using that word thunder because I'm taking it from Oklahoma City, giving it to Darius. What was it? 32 points, 18 boards, or 27 points. I'm sorry, not boards. I think it was 27.
I know he got 18 assists. I don't remember the
exact
points on my head.
It was like 27 points, 18 assists, something just insane. And that was prior to that game, he had 15 assists. He had his first triple-double, the first guard to get a triple-double since Kyrie Irving in, I believe, 2013. I mean, that's absolutely crazy that we haven't had a guard with a triple-double since Kyrie Irving in 2013. The only person that's had triple-doubles has been LeBron James, and he hasn't been here for a while. So this kid is absolutely turning into the superstar we hoped that he would be, that we wanted him to be, that we needed him to be. He has become everything that we dreamt Darius Garland would become and more. And let's hope that he can keep it up. But in that same breath, he has had some massive help. Evan Mobley doing what Evan Mobley does, showing out like he is the rookie of the year. Jarrett Allen being the all-star that he absolutely needs to be. Guys, if you have not voted for the NBA All-Stars, get on there right now. Jarrett Allen, Darius Garland. You could throw Mobley in there if you want. You could vote for Kevin Love. It doesn't matter. Get these guys onto the All-Star team. Game takes place in Cleveland. It's going to be an amazing weekend, but let's have some hometown rep on this team because we deserve it. They deserve it. Let's go.
Darius Garland's playing so well right now that he actually got a rebound on his back. I mean, you want to talk about just an incredible, and again, this is what we needed. And I talked about this extensively, I feel like, on the first podcast, because I think our first podcast of the whole season, when we were previewing this season, right, all we were talking about was, can this team play together? Can Darius Garland and Colin Sexton play together? And then we got to the first couple podcasts before Sexton got hurt, and we were like, Darius Garland, he's not being that aggressive. And then we talked about it early on. The minute Sexton went out, for some reason, again, I don't mean to bag on Colin Sexton, but it's just a coincidence. It's just what happened. Darius Garland, that light just flipped. And ever since then, game by game, he's been getting better and better and better. And we talked about this, Joey. I don't know, with the competition of the guards in both conferences, if Darius Garland is going to make the All-Star team. But man, he keeps playing like this, he's going to have a shot.
Not only do I think he's going to have a shot, but I think that you have to also, realize that a lot of these guards in the NBA, you have your Chris Pauls and your Russ Westbrooks and, guys who haven't played like John Wall. And these are, they're older. They're getting up there. We've seen, some decline. Chris Paul, and I've said this in a previous podcast, he's been somewhat of a LeBron, being able to kind of beat Father Time for the most part, and really leading the Phoenix Suns. But Darius Garland is 21 years old. He's on his way up. So I do agree with you with a little bit of a muddled mix of a lot of really good guards. He may not make the team. However, I think that the way he's playing right now, he is playing at not just an all-star, but just a superstar level. He's becoming who you go to when the game is on the line, when you need to make that comeback. He has been everything this Cavs team has needed, and something that I think that the city needed, which is that superstar that we can rely on. And I think that not only is he emerging, Jarrett Allen's been there all year. Jarrett Allen, if he is not an all-star, as you've said, it's criminal, it's ridiculous. That Jarrett Allen is an absolute all-star. And, Evan Mobley, he's not going to be an all-star this year. We're hoping he's going to be rookie of the year, because I think that he's put together that, those types of numbers. But that's another kid who I think is going to be an absolute superstar maybe next year. This team is just, it's you watch these games, and they could have very easily said, we're down 18 against the Thunder. Let's rest some guys. 4-2 on the West Coast trip. That's still really good. We still have a really good record. We're still going to be in 6th place. And they were like, nope, that's not us. That's not our style. We're going to fight tooth and nail, down to the wire, win, lose, does not matter. We're going to show our grit. And then they came out in that second half. Actually, I think they were down by 18 in the third quarter, and somehow came back, and they were just like, we're taking this. So 5-1 on that trip was huge. 4-game winning streak, showing us who they are once again when they are healthy. And it's incredible to watch. It's unbelievable to me from last year to this year, and I think it is to everybody else, that you don't see teams turn around that quickly in the NBA, especially when there isn't a major free agent signing. You can look at a team like the Bulls, who we've talked about before, who went out, signed a bunch of good players, and they're, I think they're number 1 right now, the number 1 seed, best record in the East. But you do not get a team like the Cavs, where it was through drafting and no major signings, through a couple of decent trades. Lauri Markkanen's been playing pretty well the last few games. He kind of goes up and down, but that's not a major free agent signing. Ricky Rubio wasn't a major trade. So they did this very meticulously, through good contract signings, good trades, and just building a team that is built for grit, built for the long haul, and especially with as young as they are, a team that's going to be this good for many years to come.
I want to add one thing about Garland too. We talked about him being the superstar level, being a leader on his team. He played all final 12 minutes in the fourth quarter against San Antonio. And then he goes out the next night and plays the entire third quarter, all 12 minutes, to get the Cavs back in the game against Oklahoma City. There's not many guys, no matter how young you are, who are willing to not take a second off the break to get a team back in the ballgame. I think it shows the competitiveness of this team. And by the way, we talked about it. Yes, it shouldn't have been close against Oklahoma City and San Antonio, but it's also a learning experience, and it will give these guys confidence that, hey, we've been in this situation before. We can now come back. And I think, again, Utah didn't have Rudy Gobert, and they really didn't even have a center that game Wednesday night. Well, Lamar Stevens, out of all people, comes out to start the second half and pretty much puts his stamp on the ball game. That game turns into a runaway game. But Utah has been a place where in the past, just like Miami was this year, just like Minnesota has been in the past, the Cavs have not won. All of a sudden, they're winning everywhere. They haven't won in a decade plus.
Well, something that I think, you've talked about this, is the Cavs haven't really beaten a top-tier team that has been whole. They've always been missing a player. They beat the Bulls without DeRozan. They beat, the Jazz without Gobert. They, a lot of these, the bigger wins, it seems like there's always a player missing. But do you remember what you said that first podcast? What's the percentage of the games you have to win?
Didn't I say something like you have to win 40? Wasn't it like you win 20, you lose 20 in the remaining 40 or something like that?
Something similar to that. I think it was there's 30% of the games that you should win, you have to win. 30% of the games that you're probably going to lose, you're probably going to lose. And then there's that remaining 30 that you have to win. Well, with this year being so crazy, especially with COVID and going on, the Cavs are going out and they are just trying to win whatever game they can by whatever means. And not only are they winning these games, but the learning process and the experience that they're gaining is going to really help them later on. We've seen them lose these close games. And we've said, well, it's a learning experience. They got to learn how to win these games that they have to close out. Well, now we're seeing them starting to close out games that they earlier in the year we saw them lose. We seen them come back from Oklahoma City, 18 down. So that's an experience. You know what? We are not going to give up. No matter how much we think we're down, we're not going to give up, because we were up 20 against Utah. Utah could have came back, but the Cavs said, nope, you're going to stay down there. We're going to beat the crap out of you. The Cavs were down 18 against Oklahoma City, and they said, nope, we're not going to stay here. We are coming back. We're going to make a statement. And that's exactly what they did. This team there is no quit. Their mentality is different than that of other teams in the NBA. And I think that going forward, that learning, that grit, this coaching staff keeping his team focused and on point. I think that JB Bickerstaff has done a great job using his timeouts when the team is either, and you can tell when he's using them, even when they're winning. If he wants them to, run in transition and they're just kind of lackadaisical, he will call a timeout, even if he's up 9 or 10, and go, get your asses in gear. If I'm telling you to run the floor. This is, he's really keeping them on their toes and keeping them in any game. So this is just, it's such a rare and great combination of unbelievable coaching, emerging superstars, and to see it on our team as opposed to other teams which we've had to watch for the last X amount of years is not only fun, but something I think that Cleveland as a city needed.
I think the key to this team this year, I was thinking back just a moment ago to that 6-game winning streak in December. We were pounding teams by like 30 at halftime. And I go back to that, and I think the key to that, and it's something the Cavs have not been doing as well on this West Coast trip, is when the Cavs get out to an early first quarter lead, when they're up by double digits at the end of the first quarter, when they blitz you, boom, they usually stay on top of you. They usually blow a team out by 20 or 30 points. When they don't, when it's a close game in the first quarter, it's usually a close game throughout. And I think that they are starting to learn that, like, hey, every game is not going to be, a 20-point point at the end of the first quarter. Because I think for a little while there, they could kind of cruise because they were like, we're just running up and down the floor like our young legs are just beating their young legs. And the Cavs, for what I've seen at least, when they play these younger teams, these teams that aren't supposed to be as good, the Spurs, Oklahoma City, you could even throw in Utah for the first half, even though, they're still down in the Mitchell, they didn't have Gobert, as I mentioned. It's like those young guys can kind of keep up with the Cavs. Well, they're playing a veteran team, whether it would be, I don't know, at the top of my head, let's say Lakers, for example, because I know we haven't seen them in a long time. But when they play those teams, maybe like a Miami, that's a little bit, Jimmy Butler's a little bit of an older superstar, you could say.
Like a Brooklyn.
Yeah, like a Brooklyn today. They can outrun them. And so that's why, at the time of this tip-off today, I was actually, and I know it's good for the Cavs that Kevin Durant got hurt, but I was like, man, I really wanted to see how this team matched up with Brooklyn, because I think at some point, I know we saw Giannis earlier, but that was very early in the season when this team wasn't this team playing with this confidence yet. I want to see his matchup with Durant. I want to see his matchup with the Giannis in the East, because I think the Cavs, if you ask me right now, the Cavs are in that conversation, maybe with a Philadelphia, with a Chicago for the third best team in the East. You have Brooklyn and you have Milwaukee. To me, no matter what the standings are, those are the two top dogs right now. And then you have kind of that second tier, the 3, 4, 5, 6, where the Cavs are in that tier. And so if we think the Cavs, as we talk about right now, we're a game back of the number 1 seed. If this team were to get home court advantage some way, somehow throughout the playoffs, we're going to need to eventually defeat one of those big dogs. And today it starts. And Jared Allen, make them pay. Let the Nets know they gave you up for a 2024 second round pick. What that said in, that's all the Cavs had to give up to get Jared Allen, folks. A 2024 second round pick for a future All-Star this season, and hopefully many All-Stars to come. So thank you, Brooklyn, for deciding to give Jared Allen to the Cavs. It's a gift from God. We thank you for it. And today and going forward, Jared Allen, let him know, baby. Cavs are going to take care of business.
Oh, they absolutely need to take care of business, because this is a team, the Nets right now, without Durant. Kyrie came back, but he can't play. I thought, is he playing tonight or is he not playing?
So I thought Kyrie could play because obviously, he's not in Brooklyn, so he's playing road games. I thought. I could double check that real quick, though.
Yeah. Even with Kyrie Irving, and James Harden, this is going to be a tough task for the Cavs. So if they come out and they put this game away, it's a big win. And yeah, okay, Kevin Durant is, in my opinion, the most dangerous offensive weapon in the entire NBA, next to Steph Curry. But the Nets are a team with 3 megastars. And if you can come out and beat them, even with just 2 of the 3, that's still, they're still the second seed in the East right now. And every, like I said last podcast, every single game matters from here on out. There are no meaningless games. Every game matters. So if you can come out and pull this win out, it's massive, and you're going to be within a game and a half of the first seed.
And by the way, Kevin Durant, with that, I believe it was a MCL injury, he's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks. So when Brooklyn's playing home games at the Barclays Center, they're not going to have Kyrie Irving. So they're going to be down 2 stars with James Harden. And as great as James Harden is, let's be honest, we saw what James Harden was in Houston. I know it's different personnel, but I don't think Brooklyn's a championship. They're not the same team to me without both KD and Kyrie. I think you can lose one. I don't think you can lose both. So if Brooklyn loses some of these home games, Cavs start winning because the schedule, as we've talked about here, it's going to get a little bit easier coming up. I think this team, today it starts, and by the way, quick point of order, Kyrie Irving is going to play today. So today it's going to start. Obviously, by the time you guys hear this on Wednesday, you will already know the result, but it starts. The road to the number 1 seed. I'm calling it right now because I think right now as we sit here, it is realistic. And I can't believe I'm saying that for somebody who thought the Cavs were only going to win 30 games this whole year.
You were talking about tanking for the first podcast. Do you tank to get another? And now we're talking about number 1 seed.
At Old Takes Exposed, where Brandon was wrong. The Cavs are going for the number 1 seed. The road for it starts today. And then obviously they got another big game on Wednesday at Chicago. It doesn't look like Zach LaVine. I saw Zach LaVine injury of some type to the knee. Doesn't look like he's going to play, looking like he's going for a second opinion. But again, at this point, they're still going to have all the rest of their guys. You have to go in there to a once again hostile environment in the United Center. First time the Bulls have been this good since 1998. Maybe you could argue the 2011 team with Derrick Rose, but this is really the first time since Jordan left the Bulls have been really relevant, championship type relevant in the East. You got to go in there, a good basketball town, and you got to get that victory. The Cavs have to start proving again. I will say this over and over again. You got to start winning games that you have to win because this team, I know they're young and I know they're a year ahead of schedule. But folks, Atlanta was a year ahead of schedule. They made the Eastern Conference Finals. The Cavs absolutely can do that. We've been both saying it for weeks, and it starts this week. The NFL season is almost over. Okay. The Cleveland Browns have been at the bar the last weekend watching the NFL wildcard games. It is Cavs season now. Let's do it.
You said that and it made me angry. I just want you to know that. The Browns should be winning playoff games right now, but we got the Cleveland Cavaliers going out West Coast 5-1 on a West Coast trip, proving that they are, like you said, they are destined for that number 1 seed. This is a game. This is a prove it game. 100% in my mind, this is a prove it game. You win this game, you are proving to everybody. I don't care. You still got Harden, you still got Kyrie. You got 2, one of the best point guards in the league, one of the, best shooting guards in the league. And you go out, prove it, win this game and a half back. I mean, I've said it all year, teams need to be scared of the Cleveland Cavaliers. You don't go into any game against the Cavs knowing what's going to happen because you have no idea who's going to get hot. Is Kevin Love going to score 20 off the bench? Is Chetty going to come out and score 15 off the bench? Is Garland going to go for 30 and 15? Is Jared Allen going to go for 20 and 20? Where's Mobley? How many blocks is he going to have on any particular night? Is he going to go for 20? I mean, you can go to anyone. How smooth is marketing going to be this game? It is crazy. You can go to anybody on this team and they can get hot and really put a game away or give the team a big lead. It's unbelievable that, and I keep saying unbelievable, I wanted a thesaurus so I could come up with some new words, but I mean, that's the best word I could think of. I do want to circle back to something that we've talked about pretty much almost every podcast for a while. Now, folks, I want you to know that we talk a lot together. Everyone from the Den of Dogs, Guardians of the CLE. If you haven't checked out the podcast, go check them out. They are amazing, great people. Melanie Kirby, Clarence, Ruben, Kevin. Shout out to all you guys. It's a blast talking, and we've had this big kind of group chat talking about trades, and we've talked about it many podcasts. So sitting now, episode 14, we've talked about, okay, the Cavs need this. Now, do the Cavs need this? Do they, what right now, sitting where we're at, just coming off the West Coast trip, 5-1, what do you think the Cavs need? Or do you think the Cavs are okay where they're at?
I think to win a championship, now here's my thing. If you don't think the Cavs are good enough to beat Brooklyn and Milwaukee this year, and you don't think that they can add any other piece to do so, then I think you're going to stay pat and say, okay, we're good. But if you think this team, especially like right now, we're sitting here 2.5 back of the number 1 seed. If you think this team has legitimate aspects to go get the number 1 seed and go be a legitimate championship team, I think they need a superstar, or at least a star, another all-star to go with Garland and to go with Allen, because I think you need, now obviously Milwaukee kind of proved us wrong last year when they won with Giannis and Middleton was an all-star. That was only 2 all-stars. But I think history has shown that in the NBA, you need 3.
Well, real quick, I don't mean to cut you off. I can make the argument that Drew Holiday is fringe. I think he's made the All-Star team before. So
correct.
He played amazing last year. He's pretty much been great his entire career. So I'm not going to sit here and say that Giannis did it by himself. He had Middleton, who is an all-star, Drew Holiday, who, fringe, if not all-star player. On top of, they have a really good bench as well. So, it's not like Giannis went out and did it by himself. Giannis is on, obviously top 5, top 3 to 5 players in the league. So, but he had help.
As we're sitting here right now, and I don't mean to cut you off, but as we're sitting here right now, I think this team is a playoff team. I think they are a second round Eastern Conference Finals team. Do I think they can make the NBA Finals currently constructed? No. Go ahead.
You've been proven wrong before. But, however, in this current situation, I do tend to agree with you. As I've said all year, I think they need one more player. Now, you don't want to go out and get someone who I think is going to mess up the chemistry. And we've talked about this quite a bit, that the chemistry of this team is absolutely amazing. So I have heard so many names. If you go out, there are so many names that have been linked to the Cavs, and I think a lot of these names kind of make sense. Such as I've heard Joe Ingles. I said Joe Ingles on I think last podcast, and sure as heck, like that next day, Joe Ingles was linked to the Cavs. I'm like, come on,
probably all the legends, as we say every week.
This is the third or fourth time that we've thrown a name out there, and the next day it's out there somewhere that the Cavs are talking to this player. So, quit stealing our ideas, or pay us to run the Cavs. Something, I don't know. But they've been linked to Joe Ingles. They've been linked to Eric Gordon, Karis LeVert, who we've talked a lot about, Buddy Hield, who we've talked a lot about, Terrence Ross. If they want to bolster, the bench, there's a lot of guys out there who can help this team, who kind of fit the chemistry. Now, I did see something, and another name out there that was thrown out today, who I personally love. I don't think it would be actually a lot to get him, is Gary Trent Jr. from the Raptors. I think he would be a great fit here in Cleveland. Can play the 3, is a natural shooting guard. That would be a great pickup, and I don't think it would take a whole lot to get him here.
I don't think so either. Considering that maybe you give up Sexton, Rubio, and a first-round pick.
Yeah, if you don't have to give up another player to make the money work, that would be incredible. Now, okay, so we have talked about this. Everyone here at Cleveland Media have heard about this supposed trade that, is probably a pipe dream. I'm sure it's probably not true. There may have been some sort of, talks among GMs, exploratory, or whether they were just, spitballing. What do you think? And what would be too much to get Jaylen Brown from the Celtics to the Cavs?
So I knew this was coming because obviously we've been in our group chat talking about this. I'm going to be the first one to admit it. I've never been the biggest fan of Jaylen Brown. I think he is a supporting star. I don't think, let me put this way. I think he's the third piece on a great championship team. And on this team, I don't know if he's the difference or not. And I think with how much you would have to go for him, because I think that they would ask for Sexton. I think they would even ask for marketing potentially. I think they may even ask for Love. Who knows? But they're going to ask for, I think, one of those two big men, plus a couple first, two, or if not three, and maybe even a pick swap. Because Boston is Boston. Boston always seems to try to finesse. I mean, they're one of those teams that always seem to make a trade for them that ends up good for them, and they somehow finesse the other team. I don't know how, but they just end up somehow doing it. Jaylen Brown's a very good basketball player. He's really good alongside Jason Tatum. Boston, in my opinion, has really underachieved this year. They've underachieved the last couple of seasons. I don't know. I don't know if he's worth the risk. I think it would be better off going for a guy like a Gary Trent Jr., who is going to fill in. You're not going to have to give up that much for him. And our bench can stay relatively the same. Because as I talked about last week, one of my worries is if you go get a Jaylen Brown, an all-star fringe borderline type player, and you do have to give up a marketing or a Love or a Chetty or a Coral, whatever combo you may have listen, we've talked about this the last couple of podcasts. The Cavs bench hasn't been that great scoring-wise lately anyway. If you have to subtract those points to get Jaylen Brown, is Jaylen Brown going to be enough to equal that production? He would be great as a defender. Like, he's great on defense. I understand it all. He averages, over 20, I think like 23, 25 a game, something like that. I get it. It's tough. It's tough because I think Gary Trent Jr. could give you similar scoring production without having to give up all of those pieces.
I don't think Gary Trent is going to give you the similar scoring production, but I think that here's my stance on it. Right now, Jaylen Brown, halfway through the season, and I believe he was an all-star last year, just throwing that out there. But right now, through this season, is averaging 25 points, almost 7 boards, and 4 assists per game, while shooting 46%. Defensively, he's averaging over a steal and about half a block a game. And we know that he's a great defender. Jaylen Brown is an all-star. He's not a fringe all-star player. He's an absolute all-star player. He's only 25 years old. However, is he, and I think this is a problem that the Celtics have had, is you have Tatum and you have Brown. You got two emerging stars, and they're just, I don't know, they're not gelling well together. So if one comes up, it's probably going to take a lot to get them. And I personally really like Jaylen Brown. Love his game. He's tough, but he could take the game over. He's put up 50. So would I love to have him on the Cavs? Under different circumstances, yes. Yes, I would. For me personally, for this team right now, as of today, what's today? 16th, 17th? 17th. As of today, January 17th, the year of our Lord 2022. I think if they can somehow get either a Gary Trent Jr. or Karis LeVert, those are the two guys. Those are the guys at the top two guys on my wish list. And we can go back and if you remember, what was it, episode 3 or 4, when we were talking about, at some point we'll have to talk about trades. I mentioned to you that I really like Gary Trent Jr. So I think a LeVert, a Gary Trent Jr., if another guy like Norman Powell from Portland. If you could get a guy like that who can fit into the starting rotation, one of those are the types of guys who I think are going to gel. We don't need them to score 25 points a game. We don't need a guy like Jaylen Brown, to score 25. We need those guys to put up 15 to 20, do what they do on a nightly basis with their respective teams now. If we can go and get someone like that without giving up a ton, we have Ricky Rubio, and as much as I would love to keep Ricky Rubio because he had such a fantastic season, his contract is so valuable right now. It is $16.5 million. I think it's an expiring contract. Any team would love to have that cap space open up for him. Garland Sexton is a great player. I just don't think that he is right now. And I love Garland Sexton. I really do. I wish that it could work, but I just don't think his game gels with Darius Garland's.
I don't either. Listen, we've talked about it since the podcast day one. And, I know we did not do a podcast, obviously, because Believe One just started in October. We didn't do a podcast about last year's draft, but I said, the Cavs last year, I was like, do they trade them both? That was our conversation too, because we were like, well, if Garland doesn't pop or Sexton doesn't pop, then you're screwed, So,
Sexton is a great player. I think he could be potentially an all-star type player. I don't think he's an all-star type player on the Cavs. I think that he needs another team to work with, a different type of scheme for him to really hit his ceiling. And I know that sounds really weird. And a lot of people are going to be like, well, why can't you do that with the Cavs? Because I just don't think that he is a scoring point guard. Darius Garland is a point guard that could do everything. I think that Sexton needs a fresh team to really truly hit his ceiling. I think that we can bring in somebody like a Gary Trent, a Karis LeVert, a Norman Powell, someone like that who can fit into the starting rotation at shooting guard and flourish because they're not getting pounded like they are on other teams. Or, Gary Trent's situation over in Toronto, at least from my perspective, is there's a lot of competition there. They're kind of clogged up at that shooting guard, small forward position, with all the injuries going on out in Portland. I think Norman Powell could use a new location. He's young as well. And, same thing with Karis LeVert, the Indiana Pacers. They just need to blow it up, start fresh. So any one of those three players, in my opinion, fit with the Cavs perfectly. Put them in at the shooting guard, and that would be amazing. I think we can get any one of those three without having to give up a ton or a piece that we think is going to help us win a championship.
A name I just thought about, and it's a veteran. It's not a young guy at all. I think we've been so focused on young guys. This guy has been around the block. He is a 2-time NBA champion. He is a shooting guard. He is known for his 3-point shooting. He is currently in the Eastern Conference. A guy who I have a lot of respect for because he's made a lot of big shots in big time games. And, maybe you don't need, a guy to really play off Garland. Maybe he just stands in the corner and shoots threes and plays defense. What about calling Philadelphia and asking them not about Ben Simmons, What about Danny Green?
No.
Okay.
We've
I'm just throwing it out there. See, this is why.
Well, see,
I
I think Danny Green is I think there's a lot of players like Danny Green. You got Joe Harris, who supposedly the Cavs might be interested in. The problem is I don't know if those players fit the get out and run, run in transition like Bickerstaff wants. I like, obviously you want to have your 3-and-D guys, someone who could guard, someone who could just stand in the corner and shoot the three. But we have a couple of players like that. I mean, Markkanen has been a lot more aggressive this game, but he likes to stand out in the perimeter and shoot those threes. So same with Love, so I think going out and getting someone like that would benefit our bench. I don't think, but as we are talking about, we're not talking about just the playoffs. We're talking about if you want to go and get someone who can maybe propel us to a championship. And I know the guys I mentioned don't seem like championship players, but I want you to understand that the people, a Norman Powell, a Gary Trent, a Karis LeVert, these are guys who are great players who I think would fit the Cavs scheme, who would fit what they are trying to do and be able to propel them and really, I think, elevate their own games to where they didn't think that they could go. So those are the guys that I think would propel the Cavs to a championship, and we don't have to give up a lot for. You can probably give up Colin Sexton, Ricky Rubio, and maybe a first, which, let's face it, our first round pick is not going to be very high this year if the Cavs keep playing the way that they're playing. So you could probably give up those three things. I say things, but those two players. Colin Sexton would be great for a team to re-sign, and he's not going to get his $100 million like he wanted. So a team can get him on a pretty friendly deal, maybe like a marketing deal, 4 years, $60 million, something like that. And and then get rid of the expiring contract of Ricky Rubio and a first round pick. That's a pretty good haul for teams that either are out of it or are looking for a little bit of a change. So if we can get a player like that without giving up any pieces that we currently have, that would be incredible. And that's what I think that we need to do to make the championship.
All right, Joey, well, we spent a lot of time here today talking about the future of the team, but right now, as this team is currently constructed, we're running out of time here today on today's podcast. There are 4 games to be played between now and the next podcast. Obviously, we know today they are going to take on Brooklyn. You guys will know the result when you listen on Wednesday. On Wednesday, they have a big game in the United Center against the Bulls. They turn around then on Saturday and host Oklahoma City a week later after the game last Saturday. And then on Monday, they will host the New York Knicks, a team that we have not seen since early in the season. My prediction, I'm going to be straight up with you here. I like the Cavs to go 4-0. I think 3-1 at the very least, but they should absolutely, in my opinion here, go down to Chicago, win that game, win all 3 games at home, and they want to prove they're a legitimate team. We talk about it all podcasts say they have to win these games. And Joey, I think it's very possible we come back here, whatever time we record next week, our Cleveland Cavaliers, the Wine and Golders, the team that lets everybody know, could be potentially the number 1 seed, or at the very least the number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference.
All right, so real quick, do you want my realistic prediction, or do you want my outlandish prediction that I'm hoping for?
I would prefer your realistic prediction, but if it's very similar to your outlandish one, go ahead.
Okay. So I'm always going to say 4-0 as my, whatever, however many games they're going to win them all. Realistically, this team, I think they're a little tired. I think that they need to get some energy back. I'm going to actually say they're going to go 2-2. Yeah, it hurts me to say too. I think that there's going to be, I don't know. There's something going on in my brain where I'm like, they're going to pull out two. I don't know who the two are going to be against, but I think that there might be a game that they drop that they shouldn't. So I want to say 3-1, but I think there's going to be a game that they drop that they shouldn't, and I'm going to say 2-2. However, there's also that part of me that's just going, they don't quit, they never stop, and it's really hard not to say 4-0 to stay screw it, 4-0. They're going to win them all. 4-0.
Hey, everybody listening right now, I'm bound to be right at some point this year.
No, 4-0. They're going to win them all. Screw it.
All right, and of course, folks, make sure to go follow us on Twitter, All Things Cavs, and make sure to check us out everywhere on the Believe Land Podcasting Network. Joey, you got the final words, my man.
I just want to say big shout out to everyone at Believe in Media. We've had some amazing, amazing talks. We're going to have some really cool guests on the show from other podcasts with, fresh takes and perspectives on the Cavs. And, I love amazing company, amazing people. Check out BelieveInMediaLLC.com for some great articles from some of the best people that you'll see. And Brandon, I mean, there's really only one thing that there's left to say, and you know what to do.
Let 'em know.